All right. Hi. Welcome to this episode of Chris Enters the Void. Episode 2. And I didn't really know what I was doing when I did this. I just needed to get this stuff off my chest and stop bothering my friends and family about all my crazy that I do and talk about and say all the time. But I stumbled upon something today that really I was like, I just gotta like this is like too much like a part of the thing, and the part of the thing is MK Ultra. If you know me or have you been around me or had the unfortunate experience of being around me after like 30 minutes, I bring this shit up like all the time because I am a very firm believer that it's literally the reason, like, this is not most people in my realm of reality, which is the insane conspiracy world dealing with the Anunnaki and the reptilian people. That's the world I dance in. They all talk about like MK Ultra is like the great beast, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. It's because it was actually fucking crazy what these people were doing. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't know the most. I know a lot compared to probably the average bear, but like to compare to like the people who like write the books on this and stuff, like I don't know nothing. I definitely know enough to say that. But from the stuff that I do know, the world that we live in is MK culture is like the phrase that's often used, and it's super true. And I was watching this woman. Ooh, uh I forget her. I don't know how to say her name. She says it in the video. I don't know if I could script through fire it, but it's like Saban Breyer Aguilar. I know how to say her last name because I remember her saying that, but Shaban, I don't. I think that's how you say it. I'm so sorry. I love her stuff. She makes a really good critiques on a lot of different like topics and culture stuff that mostly she like read the articles and dissect them in a really like good and interesting way. Love her. Found her about the Cormac McCarthy stuff. If you know anything about Cormac McCarthy kidnapping that teenage girl and taking her to Mexico, she did a really good video like breaking that down, kind of from like a really nuanced perspective in like all angles. And she was really, I mean, being very generous to a bunch of people trying to run cover for a guy kidnapping and, grooming a girl or whatever. So anyway, she did this video about this woman who infiltrated the far right, and her, I think she's like a famous like feminist woman. Don't know uh, I don't know anything about her at all. I guess her name is Vera something. She runs in all these like feminist circles and school or whatever. Apparently, I didn't know anything about her. The first time I had heard about her was from uh Shaban. I don't. I'm so sorry. I should know by now. I enjoy your content so much. I'm so sorry, but the most I know about her is from whatever is in this video, and I was so blown away by the MK Ultra stuff. I've watched it like twice ish, so I got, because I wanted to make sure I got like at least a decent amount of information. Didn't get everything, but wanted to get enough to be like, all right, what are we dealing with here? And so I got a couple things I want to highlight here that she talks about that, dude, like it is the tech, like a textbook is to say, is to be a bit hyperbolic. It's not like this is how you do MK Ultra, but it is so on the money of like what the experiments were and the type of human that they're trying to like create. It's just like I couldn't believe it. So I'm gonna go through some of the clips that I have set aside. I got a lot of notes. I'm probably not going to use any of it. I mean, it's really crazy. I but I we'll see, but we'll see what we get to. But anyway, yeah. So I'm just gonna play a couple of the spots, and then I'll interject and do whatever. But anyway, so this is her talking about um the this is Vera talking about the guys that the guy she was dating at the time, and kind of giving an overview, and she specifically focuses on this one dude named Jared. His name's Jared, but I just the way it's spelled was like Jarred, which may be spelled Sharad. So sorry, so whatever. But yeah, this is her talking about Sharad.
Jared to take a deep breath with her, which he did. He calmed down
Oh, I gotta go.
them through the street for the name erratic. At one point, he told a story.
Okay, I think
Politics.
It's
He grabbed the table.
Oh, I gotta
and
go
his
back
leg
even
began
further.
to shake. He shouted, liked. She describes him as her favorite,
Oh yeah,
and she
yeah,
assigns him the
Jared.
pseudonym
Jared.
Jared. Vera followed a strict safety protocol on her dates, and she ran a background check on everyone she planned to meet with. But when she ran a background check on Jared, she found that just a few years prior, he had sent her an email personally promising to, quote, kill her slowly. He had sent this email to her at a time when she was a public champion for feminism.
Dude, I forgot. Can you, dude, asking you signed out like, oh, I guess I'm gonna go date in this community and this sent you a message being like, I'm gonna you slowly. It's like, well, I guess I'm gonna figure this out. I mean, props to her for doing that. I would not be doing that. If I even thought a girl that I do, oh my god. I don't know if I should get into story time, but I got a little paranoid about this girl who messaged me just because I couldn't believe a girl actually messaged me, and I was like, I ain't doing this. No, I don't know you. I don't know what this is. But all right.
So she didn't know if he would recognize her personally or if he had simply found her email on a 4chan forum. When Vera met up with Jared, she was surprised to discover that he was shy, soft-spoken, and even sweet and self-reflective. He didn't seem to recognize her or remember that he had sent her death threats. He was very tall, a former D1 athlete. He described a hobby of his that started during the pandemic where he went alone to a series of restaurants around New York to try their desserts, and he kept a ranking of his favorite spots. She actually found Jared so interesting that he was one of the few men who she went on multiple dates with. But when Jared started to talk about politics, he grabbed the table and his leg began to shake. He shouted, quote, liberal white women are a plague on our society, close quote. He drank 11 iced coffees over the course of their date.
That's crazy behavior. That's a guy with CTE.
A group of protesters harassed him for wearing a MAGA hat, and he reenacted the scene by standing up in the restaurant and shouting at Vera the same way that the protesters shouted at him. People in the restaurant got frightened by his shouting and cautiously watched Vera and Jared for the rest of their date. Vera says that when Jared talked about politics, his eyes changed and his behavior became erratic. He said to her, quote, if we lived in a different time, we would be hanging white liberal whores in the town square and dragging them through the street for the lies that they spread, close quote. Vera didn't say this in the article, but in an interview she mentioned that Jared did share that he had many concussions and traumatic brain injury symptoms from his years of playing a contact sport.
The part I want to get to
Vera
is actually
asked Jared to take a deep breath with her, which he did. He calmed down and again sat at the table, but later in the date, as Vera's hand rested on the table, he grabbed her wrist and his eyes changed again. He said, quote, white liberal women say horrible things about me and make everyone hate me and think I'm a bad person, close quote. Vera says that at this point he was no longer looking at her, but rather staring off into the distance as if he were in a trance. Vera asked, what did they say about you? And Jared snapped out of it and said, oh, not me. I meant Donald Trump. Vera says that he
Okay. All right. So, that's just crazy on its face. This dude obviously has, I mean, she mentioned the concussion stuff. This dude's insane, obviously. But the reason it really like hit me on like a very visceral level is because if you don't know about MK Ultra, oh, this is crazy. It is a mind control program that we started in 1953 to fight the Russians, and at the time, the guys who started it said they did it because they found out that Well, so what actually happened was during the Korean War, a bunch of dudes got captured by Korea and they filmed them a video saying that they were doing biological warfare and committing war crimes. And the government, which the dude who they got to say this, his name was Jolly West, the guy who they brought in. These POWs, after they came back, Jolly West said that, oh, well, these POWs were under mind control. So they couldn't, like, have been the guys that, like, they couldn't have done. They were just under mind control. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. Turns out that we were committing biological warfare on the North Koreans. So, fun fact. And the guy Jolly West, oh dude, he's the MK Ultra Forrest Gump. He literally wrote the book saying, the paper saying, I learned how to take memories out of people's heads and put like false ones in. He wrote that to Sidney Gottlieb, who was the guy who headed MK Ultra. His nickname was the Poisoner in Chief. All the weird James Bond like heart attack gun and all the weird stuff they try to do to Castro came from Sidney Gottlieb. I don't know if anyone knows the Castro stories of how many times they tried to kill that guy, but that they tried to kill that guy like 600 times. Couldn't get him. Literally couldn't get him at one. Pretty insane. There's even a story of this woman named Maria Lorenz who was a CIA agent who might have been a JFK, doesn't matter. She was ended up being Castro's lover. They gave her this pill like that was in her makeup kit to like kill him. Her and Castro do the deed. She gets done, goes into the bathroom to get the pill. The pill's dissolved in her makeup. She's like, well, I can't do it now. So then she comes out and is like, whatever. And Castro goes, were you gonna kill me? And she's like, well, yeah, but I don't know if she mentions the pill thing or whatever. And he goes, well, do it. He hands her the gun and points it to his head and says, pull the trigger. And she's like, I can't. And then they hump. And I was like, and that story alone is so wild. I'm like, that dude must have had the most riz. I mean, allegedly he banged everybody. He might even be Justin Trudeau's dad. Who knows with that one. Regardless, but it's just the stuff that they were doing back. I totally went off on a crazy tangent, but the stuff they were doing back then was insane. But and that's where it started was like MK Ultra, which we got from actually so the official story was the North Korea stuff I mentioned. Wow, this is gonna be all over the place, so deal with it. Um, the but the like actual story is that Albert Hoffman, the guy who discovered LSD, he worked at a company called Sandoz, right, in Switzerland. And the guy who was the head of Sandoz, his name was Alfred Stoll. Okay, Arthur Stoll. Arthur Stoll was like childhood friends with the Nazi. Oh, what did they call it? What did they call it? What did they call it? Um, Chemist Maverick. He was friends with a Richard Kuhn, Nobel Prize winner. Before she was also Hitler's leading biochemist. That dude was at Dachau, the Dachau concentration camp, and they when after the Valkyrie missions, this is from his book, which I read, but I'm getting it from this article, which I don't know anything about this article. I just got it because it had the information from the book. I listened to the book on audio on Spotify, which is now cursed, so I won't be doing that again. But I didn't have the book on hand, so I just grabbed it from this article. But this dude here, I'll point it to you because I hate when people just show you an article and they're like, see, it's an article, and they're like, all right, well, I couldn't read. But so here's the article that talks about it. And for his book, Oler dug out Sandoz company archives. He says that the then CEO was a chemist maverick. Was friends with Richard Kuhn, or correspondences with Richard Kuhn, and Kuhn was Hitler's head lead biochemist, and he got LSD from them because, like I was saying, sorry, again, this is so crazy. I'm gonna go off a bunch, but after the Valkyrie mission, the Tom Cruise movie, Hitler was real not trusted of anybody. He was like, they're trying to kill me. And he was right. Everybody was trying to kill him. It's not like he was wrong. Would you? Who hasn't? Everyone, if they said the first thing people would do, they had time machines go back and kill them. So they were, and he knew, and so he got his dude to go, he got all his chemists to go out and be like, I need something to figure out, to root out who's going to kill us, who's trying to kill me. So this guy got the or got LSD from Sandoz, who was the only person making it because they had accidentally discovered it. Albert Hoffman accidentally discovered it, and like it was first synthesized in 38, but he didn't figure out anything until like 40 something. 42, 43, maybe a little earlier. 38, yeah, 43. And then that's when the war's ramping up and it's like, we're about to lose. We got to figure this out. And that's when they get it and start using it in Dachau. And then if you read this book, Operation Paperclip, Annie Jacobson might be a Fed. Okay, she is. It's just the reality of what it is. All right, I love her, love the sinner, hate the sin. Right? That's what the Christians always say. So I'm gonna extend that to the Feds in this one. Okay, she's a good writer. Her information is good. Her Area 51 book is an atrocity to mankind. I mean, if they were, I don't doubt that they were taking mentally handicapped children and morphing them into hybrid alien looking whatever. Sure, they probably did do that, whatever. But I don't, I don't believe that that's all that's were. Like, come on, Annie, and whatever, it's fine. Her books are really good. Her books are really well written. Surprise Kill Vanish is my favorite. Operation Paperclip's really good. It's just really encyclopedic. There's a lot of names, a lot of information. Surprise Kill Vanish is just about assassinations and stuff, so it's pretty cool. But where did I leave off? Dachau. So we got the Nazis from Dachau. I'm trying to figure out which ones they are. I don't have the ones they are. I might come back and do who's who in this one, but I know that we took them from Dachau and we brought them over here and we had their papers and we started running their experiments. We got their information. Nonetheless, we got the information and started using it for our own ends. That's what actually started MK Ultra. This whole thing, MK Ultra was already really going on when the Korean War broke out. Like, obviously, we had them over here in 45. You think we didn't start working on stuff with it? They just didn't start mass rolling it out until the 50s when Jolly West figured out that he could take memories out of people's heads and implant them with false ones. He wrote a letter to Sidney Gottlieb explaining that he could do that, and they were explaining how they were going to take these experiments out into the field at some point. Cut to, he opens a clinic at the Haight-Ashbury 10 years later or whatever, during, like, at the Summer of Love, and is running a hippie crash, or what did he call it? A laboratory described as a hippie crash pad. Just running these MK Ultra, right where Manson was coming in at that time too, by the way, which I don't even know if we can get into the Manson stuff. It's just insane, because, like, I don't even know how to, like, focus this or make it a thing, because, like, the lineage of this whole thing, it literally takes you from, like, the end of World War II, and I was bringing the Nazis over, all the way through the JFK assassination, through Charles Manson, and then push all the way through to the Iran-Contra affair and to Jeffrey Epstein. Like, this is not even a hyperbole. Like, it's just, okay, how are we going to do this? All right, so we talked about how after World War II, they brought a bunch of over, right? And these ones specifically from Dachau were the ones running the LSD experiments, and then we brought that over for MK Ultra. We talked about Jolly West and how he wrote this whole thing about it, right? So what happened after what everyone knows how MK Ultra ended, which in 1973, basically there was the Senate ran these committees looking into, like, the CIA on assassinations and all this other stuff, and they discovered the money for MK Ultra, and they realized that, like, because When they started getting investigated, Sidney Gottlieb and the head of the CIA at the time, Richard Helms, literally burned everything. They mandated like cover this up now because it was so insane that they were like, yeah, there's not anything we can't know anything about this. We can't let anyone know anything about this. But um, in the 70s, when they were investigating all this, it all disappeared and it all apparently went hush hush. That's not what happened. So I don't know when exactly, but sometime during all this experimentation, they discovered that they could basically rewire people's brains and make them break their moral code. I wish I remembered this more specifically, but it's literally Clockwork Orange. They could just Clockwork Orange people, and they could, but it was like reverse Clockwork Orange, right? So they take normal people and heavily abuse and traumatize them, and then overload their brain with like crazy images and insane. And we're gonna get to that back into the article in a little bit, where she talks about how whatever, we'll get to that, but through like mass trauma and like basically like breaking a person down and then like flooding them, and then counteracting that with like immense like moments of like love and like trying of like belonging and acceptance, you can rewire a person's brain to become a fucking sleeper cell assassin that they were wanting to create. That was the whole point of MK Ultra, was to create a bunch of Winter Soldiers from Marvel who ran around like just committing assassinations, and they did. That's what they did. But they didn't just stop there. They figured out that they didn't have to do like just flooding you with like trauma and stuff. They could, if they wanted to create like assassins and create like empty vessels for whatever. We're not going to get into that part. But if they wanted to like basically break people and make people like that they wanted, they're like hybrid alien lizard people type humans, they could do that, and they did do that. That was with certain groups of like elite families. That was called Operation Monarch. That's a real thing. You can look it up. It got disclosed not that long ago, and this woman went on a show and talked about it, and then it's on. Like, it's literally, you just look it up. They just said it. They just admitted it. And it was like, I was reading it and I was like, is this real life? Is this real? If I could, no. Well, we'll figure it out. Maybe I superimpose it later. But oh, I got off so hard. Oh my god. I have notes for this. Um, but okay, Monarch, MK Ultra, yes, and how it evolved. And I think where I left off was that at some point they started realizing the Clockwork Orange, but they didn't. Okay, that's where I was getting to. Um, they learned that they didn't have to do that again on specific people. Uh, like to create like a super soldier, like that's what you needed to do, but to just hypnotize the entire fucking population, what they had to do was flood you with subliminal messaging and propaganda and through your TV, which is why there was a big push in the 50s, 60s to start putting TVs out into everyone's home, because they realized that something about TVs putting your brain into like a beta wave stage and making you more susceptible and affecting your reality, and you're seeing like things that are happening and you're perceiving them as like real even though you're not. And so they started, this is again, no, I don't have to say that. I'm not a journalist, I'm just a guy. uh but they started using that to like legitimately like mind controlling people, like, and it doesn't work on everybody obviously, right? Because people were like, obviously people were catching on, there was like conspiracy theorists and stuff, da 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 da. But where it evolved to now is after the internet like rolled out and everyone started watching everything on their screens, they started realizing that like they could cater their propaganda and how where you wanted to what to the individual person, because they have all your data. So they don't want all your data because they necessarily want to like imprison you. They will if they need to, obviously. Like they'll gladly pull your information if they want to or need to, but they don't have to do that. All they have to do is cater their what they want to you. So like obviously like my algorithm is flooded with conspiracy content and whatever, and it all caters to like what I want to see. And you have to like, and I mean I think most normal people know this now. You have to like mix up your algorithm and like do things here and there to like make sure you're not just getting a complete bias, but like most people are. Um, and that's what the whole thing is compartmentalization. It's all a pyramid scheme. The people at the bottom of the pyramid, they don't want you to know what's going on at the top of the pyramid. It's plain and simple. You just need to know what's going on in your little section. And the and okay, so again, how this pertains to where we're at now, this brings us to what she was saying, what she says a little later around the 10-minute mark. Okay, where she's explaining basically there's this list. I think she created it. I don't know if she got it from something. I think it's like her archiving like a list of like similarity in the things in the profiles, but if you look at it, it's pretty crazy. It's obviously like programming that's coming, and we'll get into the programmers in a second.
Are some of those patterns. Men who called themselves MAGA bros, men who described themselves as European, looking for their submissive European dream girls. Vera had European in quotes, so I presume they were not actually from Europe, but were rather white Americans looking for submissive white wives. Multiple people labeled themselves on their profiles as white supremacists. Vera met multiple men who believed that women should not have the right to vote. On a few profiles, she saw men who compared the violence on January 6th with how violent they are in bed. Many considered themselves conspiracy theorists. Various men clarified on their profiles that they believe in two genders only. Many profiles used the word pureblood, meaning that they are not vaccinated against COVID-19.
That's great. The pureblood is like pretty wild. I forgot about pureblood.
Profiles mentioned a hatred of women with pink hair. Many profiles designated themselves as anti-feminists. Vera says that she asked her matches about their relationship expectations and family values, and she writes, quote, each...
Okay, so I bring that up because, so that's all eugenic shit, right? Like, they're basically saying that this is their, like, they want, like, a perfectly primp white girl. Which, where does that come from, by the way? Wonder where that could have come from. They like it's obviously like to me it's pretty obvious that like this ideology that we shipped in because we were like, your scientists are really good, we like that, and then we brought them over to head NASA. What was it? Kurt Davos was like the first head of NASA with the gnarly Nazi dueling scar, and then Werner von Braun, head of the rocketry program, great guy. And like, I don't understand how they didn't like. We don't. It's so not obvious to people that that's obviously this is like literally the Fourth Reich. Like we brought it over, and that's what they were saying. They literally that was like their whole backup plan. Like again, most people probably don't know this because most people are normal people, right? Like, I spend my life like looking into this, spending all my time. I'm chronically online, barely. I go outside every blue moon, but I understand most people realistically are thinking about like normal stuff. Like my sister is a stay-at-home mom, so or one of my sisters is a stay-at-home mom. So there's no way she's worrying about space lasers and whatever else. But you know, I'm crazy, so I'm like, they're coming. And it turns out I was right a lot, so I don't know if that's good. I should have been wrong. I would have been really sick if I was wrong a lot more than I was right, but sorry. But no, like, that ideology obviously is what's affecting everything and what brought it over. Like, we imported it in. And these new people are literally cashing in on that and using it to propagate our next dictator. We like this when people are talking about Donald Trump is like the next Hitler. I don't think they realize how literal it is, because the people he was a part of, his group was Roy Cohn, was his mentor. That was who taught Donald Trump the art of the deal and all his tactics. There's literally a movie in the movie Apprentice that literally shows that. He's played by the Jeremy Strong or whatever, the guy from Succession. I hate that show, but like that Roy Cohn was an underworld associate who also worked for the government, and he helped bridge the gap between the criminal underworld and the government, and then we took that and used it to bring in the Nazis after World War II, and those groups all merged together to create the intelligence apparatus that we now use. And we took all the best marketing and all that stuff, and that whole group thought that was better than communism. They literally thought that working with these fools was better than working with commies. Which, I'm not saying commies are the best things on this planet, but they're better than Nazis. How is that not even a question? Like, that's so. Like, yeah, people talk about how the communists starved like 30 million people or whatever, but, you know who was a big contributor to that? The West. Do you think we just left the Soviets and we're like, you guys are chilling, it's fine? No, we started being like, no, fuck you, and fuck you, Stalin. We're gonna fuck your shit. And you know why Stalin hated us so much? Because he said, no, 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 we can't be making deals with the people when they need to go on trial. We can't just kill them. And Stalin was the guy who said that, and everybody else said, yeah, "Fuck that noise. We're good. Come on over, baby." It's just like, oh my god, the amount of stuff that they just like do and say that is so obviously like imported from like that in the most literal way. Like Elon Musk, the South Africans literally took a bunch of Nazis and adopted their ideology and culture. There's literally that movie with Matt Damon where he's like trained by like the black South Africans, then he has to go fight a Nazi in the end of a movie on like an open fire, like it's Lion King or whatever. Like, I saw it in school. I actually don't remember the name of this movie. I could be making it. It could have been a dream I had. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure that was a real thing that happened. But it's just like it's so obvious. It is so obvious. You can trace it. This is not a hyperbolic like group, and it's all there's a whole like deeper layer. I don't even to it where it's like the Nazi ideology is not just like that didn't just spring up out of nowhere. That wasn't just like that was a whole other like thing that goes back older than that, where all these Europeans and all these people just are think that they're really the descendants of Atlantis. Like, I'm not even joking. That was where all the Nazi stuff came from, was the Thule Society, which is the dark occult group that embedded itself into like the Nazi and their intelligence program and stuff. They literally believed that they were the true descendants of Atlantis, and they thought that like that's why they needed to prove that they were the eugenics master race. And it's so ridiculous. But okay, so I want to get to another part in this video, and then that may be it for this section. MK Ultra's coming up a lot. It is the bread and butter of our society, so I will be opening it up and ripping it out and talking about all the weird old stuff with all the old Satanism and the old secret societies and how that all is a fun little merger group all together. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I think that's all the stuff that I could get to. I haven't even touched on everything. We've barely scratched the surface, but I'm trying to also sustain because I want to do this a lot more, and there's a lot of information to get through, and it'll come up as it comes up into different aspects. But there's one more section I want to get to where I think um, it's around the 30-minute mark. That she, yes, okay, they're talking about why it's these guys are talking about why it's okay to hit your wife, and it's it's the MK Ultra. This is actually the MK Ultra handbook, like why they do it and what the results are, and it's exactly the same as the results that the people who were doing MK Ultra, what they were trying to do. Let's see
How
if I
the
got
money
it.
is spent again.
Okay.
Want to do it, but I made him because I upset him, or deep down, he really loves me and he wants what's best for me. But when they asked this group of abusers what the benefits were of attacking their wives, the reasons were actually quite straightforward. They said things like, and this is kind of bleak, like there's a trigger warning on this. If I hit her, then I can feel superior. It keeps the relationship going because she's too scared to leave. I can get money. I can get sex. I get total control of decision making. I can use her money for
Okay.
drugs. I get power. She's an object. I get a robot babysitter, maid, sex, food.
Okay. And that's literally what MK Ultra is trying to do. It's literally to it was trying to, on a mass societal level, it started out in the lab, aka small control groups, that then they put out into greater society for mass control. And it's not 100% effective, right? Like, obviously people will see through to a certain extent, and you have to remember this, there's not one group trying to put this all out there and using these tactics to get us to fall for it, right? There's a bunch of different groups. They're all they're all eugenics in their own fun special ways. They all want eugenics, but they like this group that specifically in America that is running the Donald Trump camp with like Mike Cernovich, Curtis Yarvin, and all those fun-loving Peter Thiel, all those fun-loving people. They're directly linked to this whole camp that then goes from that is all tied back to like the Epstein and his whole thing, because the again the we are gonna get into some of that stuff in a second, but like the biggest part about the Epstein stuff was like the uh the PDF stuff was horrible and bad and awful, and like, but it is not what the people are trying to hide. It is the stuff they're trying to hide from that is all the legitimate financial crimes and connections to all these operations that are so far buried underground that they will literally run over anybody to make sure this doesn't come out, because they know that most of us would start rioting in the streets if we understood that they were trying to, that not even trying to, that they literally are flooding everybody with so much terror and dopamine and doing unspeakable acts to people in the dark to try and control people. Um, okay, so another thing I wanted to highlight that I thought was a bit of a this is gonna be a little bit of a dipper. So a lot of the left wing loves to attack itself, and I think it's an op. David Pakman is this guy. He's a commentator, political commentator, political pundit dude. He's more middle of the road, a little pro Israel for my taste, if you catch my drift. But he's people are coming after him now because he took money from some group to, probably say some stuff about Israel, whatever. Who cares? But I shouldn't say it like that, because like he's supposed to be an independent journalist and he took money from somebody and didn't disclose it, which is a big deal to these people. But to me, this is an op. I don't know who's running the op yet. I don't know what the point of the op is, other than to try to sow more discontent in the left, because that's that's this group who's the anti-commie group. They love to throw just mud in the water, trying to make the left punch each other, because the worst thing they have is a united left, because a united left is a real problem for people. That's why we have to fight over everything. Like, pick a topic and tell me that there's not a left-wing disagreement. The right has no problem being unified and shit, and that's because, again, that's their propaganda, and that's what the whole point is they're supposed to be the boom, 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 and we're supposed to be shattered into 1,000 pieces. Um, but so people are mad at him for taking money. He gave a response that was mediocre at best. But the biggest deal is, I think that the biggest takeaway we need to go for is that it is a big smokescreen. I'm sure he took money. Everybody takes money. We live on Satan planet. We live on the eugenic Satan planet, and people are like, he took some money to say some things that I don't. Well, yeah, of course he took money. He's how many views? He's got millions of subscribers. Do you think that he's just gonna get to chill? Are you kidding me? These people have bots doing agent stuff that agents couldn't even do in their wettest of dreams. So I just thought it was silly. It was really silly goose behavior, and it kind of brings into the next thing, which is, of course, the left trying to eat its own tail again. Which is, so Glenn Greenwald, a couple days ago, this would be 2 days ago, made a response
that she is a
because
misguided, honest broker of journalism, or she is malicious in the areas.
Whitney Webb said some stuff about Glenn Greenwald in the past. Glenn didn't like it, or somebody asked Glenn Greenwald about how I felt about Whitney Webb. He gave this whole response where he was like, she said some things about me I didn't like. Um, and basically, that's basically what it comes down to. And Whitney gave actually a pretty, I thought was a good response. She said, I find it very inaccurate that you would claim that I, quote unquote, lied about your, quote unquote, Snowden reporting or really about you at all, as the articles and, quote unquote, theories you are referring to are reports about the Intercept. How many of the whistleblowers who trusted the Intercept ended up in prison, some of whom thanks directly to other Intercept journalists they trusted, and how the Snowden archive was closed? Laura Portraz, I don't know how to say that. When you mentioned who you mentioned in this video was outraged about the archive being shuttered and said you and top staff did not even inform Snowden that it was being shut down. I am obviously aware that your underling Michael Tracey has made two very bad faith smears against me, and he did, we'll get to that in a second, and other researchers in the Epstein case recently taking two relatively minor errors I had already taken corrective action on to try and discredit my 10-year body of work, among other things. I can assure you that those mistakes are extremely rare in my work, and they are not present in my articles on The Intercept, the content of which you paint as containing things that are provably false. I am posting links to all of my articles on the issue below. Please let me know what it is provably false about them, and I will happily make a correction. Also, I am hardly the only journalist who made these claims about Snowden Archive and the Intercept. Why are you singling me out? Which is a fair point, because she was kind of being singled out. He's saying that he's just responding to a question. That was his response, basically. I would make an argument that he could have easily said, well, Whitney was one of many people who misunderstood that, but she's good on some other stuff. And Michael Tracey, Hooch, I don't know if he was at the Intercept. I don't really know anything about Michael Tracey. I've just started listening to him. He came up because I mentioned Whitney Webb in my first video. I'm going to mention her a lot because she is the GOAT. She is Lois Lane of the real world. She, like, in the comic books, Lois Lane is there's this really amazing story called Superman, Lois and Clark, where Superman that's going to be a lot, but from the pre-Flashpoint DC universe, comes back into the new 52 DC universe, which, if you know what that means, haha, cool. If you don't, I don't care. But he shows up and he's with him and Lois are married in the new 50 universe. They were not. He was with Wonder Woman. It was atrocious. We don't talk about Bruno. And they had their son John, which is the first introduction of John Kent, who's amazing. John is awesome. If you saw a few years ago, people were complaining that Superman's son was gay. That was John. But Lois Lane, how she like gets money when she comes into the universe, so she's like writing books about all the corruption and stuff, and like under like a pseudonym and like a fake little name. It's so cool. And Whitney Webb basically does the same thing, except she's gives her real name. She goes and does interviews, but she doesn't live in America. She lives like somewhere else off the grid, which good for her because that's probably why she's alive and not she didn't get Gary Webb. Now apparently people think Gary Webb, or they're saying that it's more likely than not that he did commit super slide, which maybe, I don't know, but I mean they pretty much said either way everyone agrees that like, well, they ruined his life, so yeah. But anyway, so Whitney gave her response, which I read, and she gave all the links to her articles, right? And gave responses as like, hey, WikiLeaks. And then, they both said, hey, come on my show. Glenn Greenwald, Michael Tracey claims that I only made bad faith fears, which he did. He basically said that she was overemphasizing the trafficking claims, which she wasn't. Do you want to, okay, I shouldn't say she wasn't. She has made several big, bold claims that Epstein was doing a lot more trafficking than is documentably provable. She's always said that it is a very high chance and likely that he was doing these things, but she's also mentioned that she hasn't found the documentation. I've listened to her a lot. I've read One Nation Under Blackmail. No, all the way through. It's a 1,000-page, 2-volume book. Okay, it's a lot. And I love Whitney, but her writing is very dry. She does not embellish. She does not overly it's not very colorful. It's good, but like it's a lot to get through. It's a lot of names. Like, I don't even know. Do I have it over here? I don't have it over here. I have it over there. I don't want to deal with it right now, but like annotating it is a lot because especially when I first started reading it, I didn't really know all the names. Like I barely started. I'd always heard about this thing called Operation Underworld, which was the merging of the intelligence apparatus and organized crime. Which there was a national crime syndicate. Which when I was 19 and first working on my sci-fi novel, I named it the Undermarket Syndicate, thinking that oh that's stupid. Who's gonna ever think about that this group of criminals would name themselves a syndicate, like actual syndicate. These guys named themselves the National Crime Syndicate. What? That's even more on the money than what I did. I thought I was being like not very clever, but apparently me at 19 was more clever in 2012 than they were in like 2000 and like what would have been like 2000 and like not 2000 1940 or whatever. Like what? But anyway, so I was just learning about that. I didn't know all the names like Sam Giancana. I had heard about Lucky Luciano, all those people, but like there's a ton of people I had no idea about, and I'm learn. It's a lot of names. It's a lot of stuff, but she gives a lot of documentation. She gives a lot of proof. And Michael Tracey, I've been listening to him a little bit. I've read a couple of his articles because I do my best. I'm not the best. I'm not perfect. I'm just a guy. I'm just here to make fun content for hopefully my friends and family to enjoy. But like he is not being as good faith as he's saying. He's basically what I can't, I'm gonna get off on a bunch of tangents, whatever. But yeah, he's basically saying that Whitney over embellished on the trafficking stuff when she has said that that is the stuff that is a smokescreen. And I would say that to his point, that's probably why it's a smokescreen, is because there's not as much information like readily available. Like it's a lot easier to cover it up. And but I'll also say that a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, like how these girls were acting in court and everything, was exactly like MK Ultra and Charles Manson. Like if you like, oh dude, this book, I love this book too, Chaos, by Tom O'Neill. I've read this book like 3 times. Like it's so good. This book is 10 10 10. This book is not dry at all. He inserts himself in the story. You feel like you're on a detective journey with him when you're going. It's really good. Average Actor probably is actually in the middle, if I'm being honest. He actually probably does a good balance of like being encyclopedic, but also does a really good job of painting a picture. But regardless, another tangent, doesn't matter. But no, like the way the Manson girls acted in court with Charlie, the girls who were asked to go to court for Epstein after, it's a much more toned down version, but it's exactly the same. They were saying that like no, we love Jeffrey, he's the best, no, we didn't want to do that. And there's all this malarkey about like all the fudging of like the girl stories. And Michael Tracey also victim blames a lot. That's another thing I don't appreciate. These people were teenagers and oh, they lied about their age. They were instructed to lie by their age by somebody. And do you think, even if it was one of the other girls told them to lie about their age, they heard that from somebody? That was probably Ghislaine, who says like, oh, they didn't know about it. What? Okay, sure, she's not a liar. Her father, Robert Maxwell, whatever. Oh, this makes me so mad. Robert Maxwell, her father, was a Mossad agent that's pretty well known, and he died after he was basically getting into some money trouble, and he threatened the Mossad or whatever. He threatened somebody in the Israeli government, and and then he mysteriously fell off his boat after. So who knows? But and then his money just disappeared. It happened to be a very similar amount of money that Jeffrey Epstein also just happened to get on top of the money he got from Wes Flexner. It doesn't matter. So somebody was instructing these girls to lie about their age. It was probably her. I have no sympathy for this girl. I have no problem smearing her name, but for Ghislaine. But then, on top of that, when they're in court, they're like running cover for him like they were abused children covering for their parents, because he was probably abusing them and making them, but doing the whole MK Ultra thing. Trauma, abuse, love, mind control. That's what that is the name of the game, and that's the people that he was associated with. Epstein is a part of that, is the legacy of that same crew, because all the people that you are gonna think are the neocon, or not even think, but you think of when it comes to the neocons and all that stuff, they all came right out of that operation underworld and all that stuff. George H.W. Bush, all like everybody, Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, like they all came out of that whole little fun group. So the fact that Michael Tracey is running cover for Epstein and saying that all the stuff about his whatever is crazy. And I think actually like pretty offensive again, because he's blaming children for being abused, and saying that because they lied about their age, and some of them were because they were dabbling in prostitution, that they're what not their what they said isn't valid, and we shouldn't take it as anything, and we should take the word of abusers and people who can pay lawyers who can literally, or their job is to make anybody look innocent even when they're not. So I don't know. It made me really, it's really rough. Like I've been trying to get through it and trying to be like not like what would you say? I guess not like too quick to judgment, but it's really hard. And I listen, I am not a real journalist. I'm just a guy who gets into this stuff too much. And I'm telling you, like, I'm not normally a team player. That's not the vibe I get. You have to try. I try to listen to everybody and try to give people the fair shake. The Rabbi Richard Grove, who will no doubt be making an appearance at some point, um, as in like I'm gonna probably play one of his videos. I yeah, but he always says, listen to the message, not the messenger, because the people can always give you something of value, even if they're not, even if they're liars themselves and they're horrible people. There's always something in the message that can be parceled out for the truth, but you have to use, your own creativity and mental discernment to get there. And that's what I'm in the middle of with this right now. It's just, this is my this is a big trigger for me. But yeah, I think that's it for me today. Thanks for coming into another episode of Chris Enters the Void, and you know what? I'll see you next time.